everyone think is shown on the screen. That's right, it is technically blue, but officially the name of the color is cerulean. And if you've seen The Devil's Wears Prada, you know that this color is a fantastic way to show how trends can trickle down from the top of from the runway at New York Fashion Week to everyday stores. So this trend started with Oscar de la Renta at New York Fashion Week in 2002 when he had a collection of dresses this color. Then the next year, Yves Saint Laurent used the same color in his collection for pants and jackets. Eventually, after a few more designers started using it, Bloomingdale's started carrying purses like this by Rebecca Mincroft that were in the same shade. Next was Nordstrom's. Nordstrom's features coats like these and other clothing items like skirts and pants in this color. And now, about, how many years is that? 13 years later, you can find this trend in any store from Target to Forever 21 to TJ Maxx, anywhere that the average American would shop. So as you can see, New York Fashion Week is extremely influential, but it's not just influential in the sense of clothing. There's a lot behind the glitz and the glamour of New York Fashion Week, and it's really not just an event about the clothes. Obviously, the fashion is the main reason for the event, but it serves a lot of other purposes for the city of New York, for America, and for the entire world. So, I'm Kendra Berry, and today I will be talking about New York Fashion Week. I will discuss the history of New York Fashion Week, explain the economic impact of New York Fashion Week, the social impact, and the future of New York Fashion Week. So before Fashion Week was a major part of America, it was a major part of France. And Fashion Week's roots in France can be attributed to Charles Worth. Charles Worth was a designer who in the late 1850s decided to show his clothes on living, breathing models, and he was the first designer to do this. He was also the first designer to have pre-selected collections, like a spring collection and a fall collection that all had some connecting theme. And these two new ideas excited the fashionistas of the late 1850s, and Charles Worth became a very big deal in France. Now, in 1868, Charles Worth founded Chambre Syndicale, which was a high fashion society whose members were considered to be couture, and it aimed to regulate the fashion industry. So members of Chambre Syndicale had to follow strict rules, and they had to participate in a biannual fashion week, similar to the New York Fashion Week we have today. However, it was way scaled down, and it was just solely about the clothes. But then we fast forward to the 20th century, where fashion fetes came into style. And at a fashion fete, it was a little different from the shows that Charles Worth and Chambre Syndicale had put on in the past, because there was music and a specific runway for models to walk down, and there was lights, and people took photographs and started publishing about designers. And fête in French means party, so it was an elaborate fashion party. So Fashion Week, Chambre Syndicale, and fashion fêtes secured France's reign over the fashion world. That is until World War II, when it was extremely difficult to travel to or from France. And so Fashion Week in France was called off. And Eleanor Lambert took these travel restrictions as an opportunity, And in 1994, she invited everyone to New York for a Fashion Week-like event that would feature American designers and would be called Press Week. And Press Week was extremely successful, and fashion magazines started to feature American designers, which they had never done before. And eventually, throughout the years, America became France's equal in the fashion world. And since then, New York Fashion Week has gone through a lot of changes, including the name change from Press Week to New York Fashion Week. With the name change came a lot of other changes, and prior to 1994, designers held shows in their own spaces, so in their warehouses, or they rented out a space. But in 1994, they decided to host Fashion Week at Bryant Park, and they set up the infamous white tents, and everyone came and had Fashion Week in Bryant Park. This attracted international attention, and it drew celebrities, which just made Fashion Week a bigger deal for New York and worldwide. More recently, in 2010, New York Fashion Week changed locations from Bryant Park to the Lincoln Center, where it still remains. So through its evolution, New York Fashion Week has become an integral part of New York's economy. It brings almost, on average, $850 million into the economy every year. This influx of revenue can be attributed to the expenses of New York Fashion Week, the elevated income of taxis, restaurants, retail stores, and hotels. And just to put it in perspective, the Lincoln Center contributes $21 million to New York Fashion Week every year, so that leaves the rest to be contributed by surrounding businesses and areas. About 173,000 people work in New York's fashion industry, which is about 5.7% of New York's workforce. And that includes stylists, photographers, public relations, editors, makeup artists, hairstylists, security personnel, and models. And these people make about between $40,000 and $60,000 each fashion week. Gisele Bündchen, on the other hand, makes $45 million every fashion week. And with all of these high salaries, they add up to a large tax revenue for New York. The high cost of the event makes it dependent on a healthy economy. So the best example is Fashion Week of 2008, which was considerably less lavish. There were more wearable fashions, and bargains came into style as opposed to expensive things. So instead of someone bragging about how much they had spent on an item, instead they were bragging about how much they had saved. And there was an $80 million drop in the contribution of Fashion Week that year, which still was a contribution of $770 million, which is still considerable, but $80 million is a large drop for 1 year. Former Mayor Michael Bloomberg is a firm believer that New York Fashion Week is extremely valuable to New York, and he shows his support by attending Fashion Week itself and other fundraisers and events. And when he was in office, he put $50 million into the future home of New York Fashion Week, where the Culture Shed, where it plans to move in 2017. Seth Pinsky, president of New York Economic Development Corporation, said, "With its impact of nearly $900 million this year alone, Fashion Week is further proof of this industry's critical importance to New York City's economy. That is why we at the Bloomberg administration continue to work with industry leaders to implement innovative programs that will ensure the industry's long-term health and maintain New York City's reputation as fashion capital of the world." So New York Fashion Week doesn't only bring money into New York, it also brings people. People are attracted to New York because of the fashion that don't necessarily, or people are attracted to New York fashion, the New York fashion industry that don't necessarily work in fashion. And these people move to New York because of their love for fashion, but with them they bring their personal expertise in other areas such as medicine or philanthropy. So this makes New York a highly condensed area full of talented people and makes New York City a leader in multiple industries. Also, obviously, New York City brings a lot of tourists into the city. 578,000 tourists came to New York Fashion Week last year. They come for Fashion Week, but they end up spending most of their time at on other parts of New York, such as eating, sleeping, or shopping. So they contribute to all aspects of New York's economy. Now, for the people who can't make it to New York Fashion Week, all coverage of New York Fashion Week can be found on all forms of social media. This ability to be a part of New York Fashion Week without actually being there has created a change in the core value of exclusivity and has made it instead a core value of accessibility. And collections are more wearable and affordable. Brands are reaching out to consumers online through social media accounts like Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And these social media accounts are the new way to advertise. Social media also creates a conversation between, in addition to creating a conversation between consumer and producer, social media also creates a conversation between consumers. Websites like Polyvore allow consumers to discuss what's wearable and what's not, and to collaborate on trends. This immediate conversation about their designs inspires designers to make collections more wearable and appealing to the average American. Since New York Fashion Week gets so much attention in person and online, it's the perfect place to spread awareness. The Clintons took advantage of this a few years ago when they placed a giant pink inflatable elephant in the lobby of Fashion Week. And people came by and took pictures of it and posted it all over social media with a hashtag that was on the elephant. And that was actually to raise awareness for the poaching of elephants for their tusks. So that's just one example of how New York Fashion Week can use the attention put on it in a good way. Keith Baptista, managing partner of New York Fashion Week, said, "We feel that if we can build platforms around fashion and music and art, why can't we also do something that has a political message?" There are a lot of changes coming to New York Fashion Week in the future, and one of the big changes is actually that designers have started to revert to their old ways, and they have started to host shows in private venues, like their own private warehouse or rented space, anywhere that's not the Lincoln Center. And this allows people to explore the city more and also gives the opportunity for independent designers to show themselves at their own warehouses and have people who are walking by or have just come from another show to walk right in, and allows them to be more discovered. So it just, again, has that accessibility trend to it. Also, as I'm sure most of you have heard about or are aware of, a lot of controversy surrounds New York Fashion Week when it comes to the models. And a lot of people say that the models of New York Fashion Week are underweight and underage. And one designer, Carrie Hammer, has the answer to this. She has started to use role models as opposed to runway models. And she says that her collection, so this is, her models are anyone who could be considered a role model, like anyone who has a full-time career or a homemaker or anyone like that. And her collection, she says her collection is rooted in a different, broader definition of beauty. And she says that she would like this to be the new trend for designers. And she hopes that other designers will copycat her on this idea. New York Fashion Week has gone through... the most important change in New York Fashion Week, though, is the change in the core value of exclusivity to accessibility. And this is where the idea for my community outreach came from. Myself and a fellow senior, Megan Jones, set up a prom dress drive, and we set up a clothing rack in the main office and encouraged girls to donate their gently used prom or homecoming dresses, and then we donated them to Hope's Closet, where they will be given to girls who, without the dresses, could not afford to attend prom. And this is really important. This is a really important idea and a really valuable cause, because New York Fashion Week and the fashion industry as a whole has shown that fashion is no longer about exclusivity, and instead fashion should be something for everyone to enjoy, no matter how rich or poor, or no matter what your body shape is or how old you are. You should be able to enjoy fashion. And so a quote that I really like from Carrie Hammer is, "Beauty to me is confidence. The woman's beauty shows by integrating her interior disposition and radiating it outward. The dresses only enhance that. My clothes are a frame, the woman is a piece of art." So that quote just shows how many people are starting to appreciate everyone being included in the fashion world. So throughout New York Fashion Week, thank you.